on this episode of The Strange Medicine of Alice Strange. The biggest thing here was I suddenly was so sure of my purpose and so driven to achieve that, to make it happen. I had no attachment, no tether, nothing about these heavy life experiences that had haunted me my whole life felt heavy at all. That dark-haired woman came up, put her hand on my shoulder, and she said, "Don't worry, I've got us from here." I had been okay. I had been okay. But I kept saying, I'm scared I'm gonna die. I really am scared I'm going to die. And I didn't really know. I didn't know why. And then this day hits, all of these things hit within a couple hours. I ended up in the ER. Jeanette Brio has a podcast episode that actually went out in April, right before the eclipse in April, where a soul releases a fragment that was in the forefront in this lifetime, and a parallel higher aspect of that soul would step in. So it's not a different soul completely, it's two different versions, parallel versions of the same soul. I don't know where my life is going, but I'm excited to find out. Hello and welcome to the Strange Medicine of Alice Strange podcast. I am Alice Estrella Strange, and I'm a psychic development and self-development coach. I help people overcome their limitations and mental health struggles and become the person they desire to be. And today I am talking about something kind of big for me. I will be talking about something that has been a long time coming. First of all, this episode is going to be going out on my birthday, September 18th, and the 18th is ushered in by the lunar eclipse in Pisces, which is very significantly tied to what we are talking about today. I've gone through my calendar, my texts, my emails, all of my history to gather the dates and the information for this story. This is the story of how I became a new person, quite literally. Buckle up, this is gonna be wild. So it starts all the way back in August 2023. I am in one of my little psychic practice development groups, and I went to a past life. And this is a really long story. So in short, the important part is I met a dark-haired woman in this past life, and she was stuck in a trauma loop from her past life. So with the assistance of some friends, we went in, collapsed the first timeline, and then helped her get out of that trauma loop, this past life, this dark-haired woman, and then we collapsed her timeline and I integrated her. After that, she would come in when I was doing healing sessions or magic or psychic things that were really intense. I would see her and she would be me. She would come in and I would see her as me. Then, October 14th, 2023, the solar eclipse in Libra. So the Libra is in my house about destiny, and this solar eclipse really knocked everything into motion. Things got really hard. I kind of described it as a dark night of the soul. It was just really difficult. And on the 20th of October, I made the name change from Alice Strange to Alice Estrella Strange. So that's all a part of this. And also my life just kind of fell apart. Everything, if you've looked at my old podcast episodes, you can hear all about it, but life got hard, dude. So then, August 28th, 2023, the lunar eclipse in Taurus. So for me, that is hitting my 6th house of health, wellness, things like that. Lunar eclipses are kind of about internal endings and beginnings, and I very much had a lot of that. Externally, I lost a lot of things. I went off all of my medications because I lost insurance, and I had been having terrible, disabling level of mental illness. 10 years later, in August of 2023, all of those symptoms had kind of just evaporated. A couple months before this, August 2023. In October 2023, lost my insurance, had to go off of all of my medications, but all of my symptoms were still gone, resolved, just magically gone. So then, in November 3rd of 2023, I officially became Alice Autumn. And then after this point, everything gets really, really hard to remember. I don't remember much. I know I was putting out podcast episodes. They're out there. They're existing. I was on other people's podcasts. I don't know, but I don't really remember any of it. What I do know is that towards the end of January 2024, I just stopped. I stopped everything. I stopped doing my podcast, and I honestly didn't even leave my bedroom at all. From January to March, I did not leave my bedroom except to go to the bathroom, grab food, things like that. I was completely shut down, just nothing. And then we get to March 10th, the new moon in Pisces. It was a super new moon in Pisces, March 10th, 2024. I woke up one day and, on the 10th, and was just different. I left my bedroom. I suddenly was just completely different. I was motivated, working on my business, 100%, hard work every day. I went out with my friends. I reconnected with old friends. I renewed my purpose. I felt amazing. Everyone said I was different. Everybody I met, all of my old friends, just like, what is this? Who are you? What is going on? A lot of them even said I look a lot different. Specifically, I had a lot of people asking if I had dyed my hair. They're like, your hair looks so dark. Like, what's going on? So Pisces, this new moon, is in my 4th house. So about like an inner sanctuary, self-reflection, also death and transformation, and the foundations of life. Okay, remember that. So by March 17th, I started doing readings again. So the 11th, I started feeling better. By the 17th, I was doing readings after not doing them since the 4th of October. And I was much better, much more accurate. My abilities had changed a lot. I'm a lot more clairvoyant. I'm also a lot more clairaudient. And I have a much more natural healing ability to heal. And everything's a lot more controlled. I'm never trying to figure things out or turn off my abilities. Like, everything is just super chill, figured out, and good to go. And the biggest thing here was I suddenly was so sure of my purpose and so driven to achieve that, to make it happen. And I was very confident. I was also very optimistic, which is wild for the old me. And so then after that month there, we get to April 8th. 2024, which was the solar eclipse in Aries. And Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It's about the self. And I started my podcast up again after a long time. I made an episode called Resurrecting the Podcast, which is kind of funny looking back. I'll include some clips of that episode so you can kind of get an idea of like, what was this? Like, what did this actually look like at the time? I feel like almost everything but the absolute essence of who I am has changed. I realized after this kind of shift, this huge shift, happened about the beginning of March, really not that long ago, but it's so dramatic, so different. I knew I felt good, right? But all of a sudden, people started noticing that I am different. I couldn't go anywhere without people being almost shocked with the way I am showing up in the world. And this was with friends and family, but especially my spiritual community. And that's when I really started to question what the hell happened. It's a lot. It is affected almost every aspect of my life. I've been able to feel confident for probably the first time in my life. And I mean that. I, of course, have had times and situations where I felt confident in ways, but this is a new level of confidence. I have struggled with anxiety and self-doubt, but it's like I've reached a whole new level of clarity. I don't really care. I don't want to hurt people, but I don't care if people don't like what I say for this or that reason. So here we are, the 8th of April, and I had 11 readings in 3 weeks. I had never done that much of that all at the same time. It was incredible. And after that 3-week mark of starting readings, I was committed to really taking off, committing to my coaching business. I was doing classes and courses and master classes. I was spending hours and hours every single day after not leaving my bedroom for months and months. And I was in therapy. I didn't know why, but I came to therapy one day and I said, hey, I think we need to start over. Like, I worked a lot through processing my life, my traumas, all of my life. And we came to this point and I said, hey, out of nowhere, just, I want to start over from square one. Let's go back to the beginning and look at everything again. And we did. And I saw things totally different. Everything looked different. Everything felt different. And mainly I had no attachment, no tether, nothing about these heavy, heavy life experiences that had haunted me my whole life felt heavy at all. All of them were very just, okay, that's how it is. It is, and it is. I felt so aligned in life, just in general, so aligned and deeply, deeply peaceful. And then something else important to note is somewhere around the beginning of May, I had an attachment, a negative, like a spirit attachment. It was like a parasite little thing. It was not a big deal. Got it removed, whatever. But when I was having this thing removed, I kind of blacked out and went into this vision. In this vision, I remember just this dark, if you think of like Stranger Things, how there's like that black with the water at the bottom, it was that, but no water. It was just black and a black floor, just nothingness. And I'm this like weird, like mess of human. It wasn't even like a body. It was just like a weird, anyway, not important. I fell and hit the floor in this space. And I'm like feeling like, oh, I couldn't figure out what was going on. I really don't know what's going on at all at the time. And that dark-haired woman, I hadn't seen her in a minute, came up and she put her hand on my shoulder and she said, don't worry, I've got us from here. And like that, I woke up, it was gone, I was great, whatever, cool. Didn't think of it again. Then we get to May 7th, the new moon in Taurus. I had been doing very well, and suddenly I was very, very unwell. For about a week, I had been getting worse and worse health-wise. Mentally, I was great. It was actually really strange that I was feeling so physically unwell, but mentally I was still optimistic and hopeful and feeling my normal self. In the past, when I would experience health struggles, it would really take a toll on my mental health, which is, normal. But it was the 7th, the new moon in Taurus. I was suddenly feeling very confused. I couldn't focus. My moods were shifting all over the place. I was like uncoordinated and clumsy. I started to like not be able to grab things and hold things. My hands, like dexterity, gone. I was moving very slowly and I was exhausted. I could barely stay awake. My words, my mouth, my words were coming out all jumbled, slurred, confused. I was having heart palpitations. I was twitching. I was cramping. I was nauseous. I was dizzy. I was completely numb in my hands and legs and my feet. I thought I was going to die. And for a week, almost every day, I had said, I'm so scared I'm going to die. And I was having some weird things going on, but until this 7th, I had been okay. I had been like, but like, okay. But I kept saying, like, I'm scared I'm going to die. I really am scared I'm going to die. I just kept saying it, not like to the world, but to my partner and to my friends that were there for me. And I didn't really know. I didn't know why. And then this day hits, all of these things hit within like a couple hours. I ended up in the ER. And so in the emergency room, I was in a wheelchair. I was in the waiting room and I blacked out. And I had been in and out of consciousness, like blah, acting all weird for an hour or so. And the entire right side of my body was completely clenched and my head was like forced into my shoulder and my whole right side was completely clenched, could not be any tighter, and I couldn't control it. And then they're clenched, completely locked up. I blacked out. And I'm in this waiting room. I blacked out. I went into this other world. And I work a lot with inner temples. I've done a podcast episode on inner temples, inner world building. It felt like that. It felt like the first time I had found my inner temple that was already made and just waiting for me there. It was like that. But this was totally different. This was like a huge, large field. A field with like grass, like 3 feet tall. Everything was soft and comfortable. And I had been in so much pain for hours, and this world was just comfort and gentle. It was like pastel blues and purples and greens, and I was there, and I was in this vision world, whatever, this dark-haired woman. As I'm walking around, I can see that I'm this dark-haired woman. And then suddenly I snapped out of it. I came back. I was exhausted. I was a little pissed off because the hospital was like, "You're fine, everything's fine." And I was convinced that I was dying, but I was fine. And again, this was the new moon in Taurus, which is my 6th house of service to others. Remember that. And from then on, I was even more different. People I knew forever, I connected to in a different way. I suddenly was best friends with people that I had never really had relationships with before. A lot of my old friends kept saying I looked so different. New people I met, they treated me, looked at me, everybody treated me different. They saw me in a different way. And it was jarring. I just didn't understand why suddenly everybody's seeing me so differently. It didn't make sense. I was also so confident, and I didn't have any kind of need to prove myself. That was a big change. If there were people in my life that I loved dearly, who just kind of don't really get what I do. They're not really into the psychic thing, the tarot thing, the whatever, the magic, the witch. They don't get it, and I did not give a fuck. Okay, cool. You do you. That's fine. I don't need to prove myself to anyone. And I had never tried to out loud say those things, but I always felt a little like I couldn't find myself if other people didn't see me. Another big thing that changed is I still have not a single people-pleasing bone in my body. And I was always the biggest people pleaser. Oh, it was so bad. And I could not give less of a fuck. I just don't know. It's not at all me anymore. Another big change is that I had always had really, really bad memory issues. And I would forget things very quickly, within minutes, within seconds. I would forget the long term all the time. And I really don't have memory issues anymore at all. Another big change is I've become very independent, to the point of like having a tendency to isolate, which is so strange. Old me, when I would struggle, would just be like reaching out to people constantly. I need, please support me. And that's absolutely the opposite of who I am now. And again, I just became even more certain of my purpose and even more committed to pursuing it. There were also health changes. My mental health issues stayed gone and got even better. I mean, my anxiety, I went from taking like 2 Xanax a day plus like a bunch of Buspirone, like all these things every single day, to nothing. Almost nothing. Little tiny, a fraction, and weaning off. And I lost weight, tons of weight. I have some new health issues, some digestive issues, some like muscle pain, swelling, things that were never a part of my life before. And my taste in food has changed. I used to hate tea and love coffee, and I don't really like coffee that much anymore, but I love tea. It's just so strange. And I knew something was different. I knew something was significantly different. So then we are at May 14th. I started getting notifications, and I looked back in my history. May 14th, I started getting notifications for a few nights in a row, about 2-3 a.m. And all of the videos were about walk-ins. And I had never heard of a walk-in. I had never heard of that. I didn't know what that was. And it's 2 or 3 in the morning. I'm not going to watch a YouTube video. So I would just ignore it. I never watched any of them. I will say a lot of these downloads and realizations happened at 2 or 3 in the morning because that's when my psychic ability is at its highest now. Another new thing. It always hits in the middle of the night. So one night I was looking through my phone. I was going through my notes app and I found a note in my notes app on my phone with like notes about walk-ins that I never remember writing. Maybe I did it in the middle of the morning, decided to watch a video. Who knows? Who knows what actually happened? But I saw this note about walk-ins and I was like, what is this? What? Huh? So I went back and I looked at some of those videos. And to cut to the chase, what happened on March 10th, the super new moon in Pisces, is I experienced a walk-in. The walk-in was that dark-haired woman. And a walk-in, if you don't know, is when 2 souls make an agreement to switch. The first soul is born into a body, and at some point, that first soul decides to go to the other side, and the second soul takes over the body to continue the life of that body. And this isn't anything scary. Like, it's nothing scary. It's not possession. It's not even death. Like, both souls agree to this before the first soul comes in. Like, this is a contract written to your soul contract that you agree on. And Jeanette Brio has a podcast episode that actually went out in April, right before the eclipse in April, about soul fragment walk-ins. And a friend had sent me this podcast episode, sent me a link to it and said, hey, you should watch this. So she channeled that the eclipse in Aries would bring in a lot of new walk-ins in the form of soul fragment walk-ins, where a soul releases a fragment that was in the forefront in this lifetime, and a parallel higher aspect of that soul would step in. So it's not a different soul completely, it's 2 different versions, parallel versions of the same soul. And this is what happened to me. The soul that was born into this body met and helped and released a lot of trauma for the soul that eventually walked in, and that happened in August. And then in March, they switched, they flopped. So the new moon in March in Pisces was the walk-in, and on the new moon in May in the ER is when the first soul walked out. It's very common with walk-ins to have like a near-death experience or feel like they're dying, and it was in my house of service to others. And the original soul had done a huge service for me. She took a lot of trauma. She took on a very heavy life, shouldered a lot of shit, and brought this body, this vessel, to a good place, and she let me take over. She took all the bullshit and let me take over, and that, in the middle of that, was the solar eclipse in Aries, the first in the zodiac sign, the beginning, and I was actually where I live right in the path of totality. So I was able to watch the whole eclipse from beginning to end, the whole thing. It was so magical. And the day that this video goes out is the lunar eclipse in Pisces. Eclipses are 6-month cycles. They are a cycle that starts and ends, and started way back and now we're here. And so synchronistically, like, how wild is it that my video schedule already planned everything would just so happen to be today and on my birthday as well? That's just wild to me. And so if you don't know me, hi, I'm Alice. I help people overcome their limitations and mental health struggles to find empowerment and become a better version of themselves that they never imagined they could be. And I coach people in psychic development and self-development. And if you want to be a part of that, you can find my links down below. I host a free community on Patreon with a bunch of spiritual people where we can all connect, and you don't have to do it alone. There are tons of free events and other things going on there, so you can join that, or you can follow the channel so you can stay updated, because I don't know where my life is going, but I'm excited to find out, and you're welcome to find out with me. Thank you for hearing my story. This was a really big thing for me to share, all of this, and for everyone who listened, thank you. This has been building for a long time. I was not sure how I was going to share, when I was going to share, if I was going to share, and I don't know, the stars aligned quite literally. If there's anyone out there who is a walk-in or you want to talk about your experiences with walk-ins, if you know one, if you are one, please send me a message. I'd be so interested to hear other people's stories, and maybe I'll host an interview at some point, but let me know if you or someone you know has experienced a walk-in. Remember, be well, be kind, and may your curiosity for this world and the next never fade.